John Villarino. And after we do the roll call, I want to have him just say a few words. So let's go ahead and do the roll call, do from my left to right.
Rob Knight, 4th District.
Richard Saloga, 2nd District.
Aaron Steinwachs, 3rd District.
Keith Kaufman Gray, 1st District.
Ronald Nye at large.
Sheila Snow, 1st District.
John Villarino, 4th District.
Randy Malcolm, 5th District.
Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you. And as I just mentioned, we have a brand new commissioner on the HLAC, and his name is John Villarino. And would you like to say a few words this morning?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. My name's John Villarino. I was born and raised up in Santa Maria Valley, and I still live there. I attended Allen Hancock College and then went on to graduate from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a Bachelor of Science in Anthropology and Geography with a concentration in Archaeology and Geographic Information Systems. Currently, I work with Applied Earthworks, which is a cultural resources management company up in San Luis Obispo. And yeah, I wanted to take the opportunity to apply to be on this committee because I thought it would be a great way to give back to the community, do community service, and also it aligns with my interest and career with preservation of historic resources and cultural resources. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you all.
Great. Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you.
And he actually interned under Kiaha, our Krista, our Department of Transportation Caltrans contact for the Cultural Resources Department.
I know. Yeah. Well, I really don't know her personally. I just know her by email because I talk to her all the time. She's great. Very helpful. Thank you so much. Okay, well, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any people of the audience or online that would like to say something that is not on today's agenda?
We have no submitted letters and we have no request to speak.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the minutes. This is the minutes from March 10th, 2025. And I want to thank Jonathan for getting them out early. And I have to say, Commissioner Nye and myself worked on them. So we already did a lot of edits already. But I hope if you found something, please, we need to make them as accurate as possible. Would anyone like to move to accept the minutes or any questions?
I move to accept the minutes as written.
Sheila usually likes a second, but she can't because she missed that.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a move in second. All in favor, say aye. Anyone that wasn't here?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. So we have 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 4, staff update. The Planning Development HVAC staff will provide a brief oral announcement or report of items of general interest. Do we have anything from staff today?
Not from this side
See
of staff.
heads shaking no. Okay, we don't have anything from staff today. Okay, we'll move right along since we do have a big agenda. Item number 5, the chair project discussion. This is a time that the chair will go over some items and also if there's any historic potential projects, we'll talk about them at this time. There's quite a bit I have here today. The first is a very fun thing to talk about. On Thursday, June 5th, as you probably all know, we had a dedication of our plaque at Rocky Nook Park. And it was a very successful event. The plaque, as you know, we ordered it and it was installed on late last year. I think around December, they installed it. Rocky Nook Park was created a landmark number 24 on November 7th, 2023. So it's been a while since we landmarked it. And so we had a opening little plaque dedication and we had a wonderful turnout. Supervisor Laura Capps, who's chair of the board now, was there. Former Supervisor Doss Williams, who was chair of the board at the time of the nomination, was there, as was Supervisor Roy Lee, the current First District Supervisor. And then we also had Gina Fisher representing Joan Hartman from Third District was there. And we also had the neighbors, Peter and Pauline Khan and Fran Galt. Those are all the ones that did the original nomination. And we found out that they first started that nomination in 2017. And so it has been a long road for this to happen. Also, James Lee was there. He's the person on the far right next to Lanny Evanstein at the end. He was a representative of the Chumash tribe, and he did an opening prayer. Ernestine, the elder, a Chumash elder, was supposed to come, and unfortunately, she had a last-minute doctor's appointment that she had. So he stepped in for it. So it was just a really, really wonderful event. We also had staff. Jonathan Martin was there from staff, so we appreciate you coming. And he brought cameras. The picture you see in front of you was taken by Jonathan, and it's a very good photo. My husband Neil was there, and he took photos, but it wasn't as close as
I wish
this
I'd
one
have,
really
huh?
came out nice. And you know, we had press ahead of time. I don't know if you saw, Newshawk did a little short blurb about the event ahead of time. And we also had, there was a lot of stuff.
Montecito Journal was there.
Montecito Journal. And yeah, Hattie from Montecito Journals was there. So I have a feeling there might be something in the Montecito Journal this week, you know, concerning the reception. But anyway, it was a really wonderful event. And everyone got a chance to say a few words. And, you know, and I think it's good communication with our supervisors, you know, as a thank you, and let them know more about what we do at this. And then we had 4 commissioners there. We had Commissioner Malcolm, Commissioner Snow, Commissioner Nye, and myself. We were very good not to talk business. Just want to let our county council know that. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody, and I'm going to be thanking personally each supervisor that came, and I'll be sending some of the photographs, so they might even put them on their individual newsletter. So that is the Rocky Nook Park Landmark Celebration. Any questions from any of the commissioners? Oh yeah, do you have the other picture, like the floor? Yeah,
Yeah.
scroll through. And then there's, okay, that's James Yee. And there's the former Supervisor Williams. And there's Supervisor Capps. And that's a bad one. No, but keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Those are too close of pictures.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good pictures, yeah. And I have, let me pull up the one that.
Oh yeah, like I said, husband Neil took some pictures, so there's a few here. I think the one, the picnic table is really, okay, there's
the picnic table.
Supervisor Laura Capps. Yeah, and I think there's Gina Fisher. Where's Gina? It was a typical June morning, June gloom, but actually it takes good pictures when it's foggy. So there's that is Gina Fisher, the Chief of Staff for Supervisor Hartman. And that's Supervisor Lee with his Chiefs of Staff, Wade, his last name, it's Wade is his first name. And that's it, right? Oh, there should be one of the picnic table.
That's what I'm trying to find right now.
Yeah. I know I sent you.
Sorry. I'm gonna grab it. What was this?
And the neighbors put together a beautiful spread of food. Kind of a I never can say it, charcuterie spread. And it was, I mean, very well. There we go. It's not in there? Oh, there it is.
Yes.
This is beforehand, so everything's covered up. But I mean, you can see there was just a lot of. And that is on that picture there. That's Paulina and Peter Kahn, and then also Fran Galt on that picture of the picnic table, wherever that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So Fran Galt is on the right, and then that's Paulina. And there's one last picture of the plaque. And that's the plaque that we were unveiling. Okay. Well, let's move on. But I wanted everyone to know that couldn't make it. It turned out to be a very good. And okay, going on to the next chair project discussion and report. I just want everyone to be aware, it might be coming out shortly, but the County of Santa Barbara is doing a video series for celebrating the 175th birthday of the county. And they've done of different things throughout the county, and they are doing a video on historic landmarks. And they filmed me at Rocky Nook Park. This was March. And it's Kelsey Gherkin Pita. She's head of communications for the County of Santa Barbara now. You might remember that she was also on Channel 3 for many years. Anyway, she filmed me in Rocky Nook Park. And when I invited her to this event, she said within 2 weeks that they're going to be posting it. So it could be this week, maybe next week, but keep an eye out. I think they posted on the county newsletter that comes out. So if you get that, there should be on there. So anyway, so that will be more, publicity for HLAC. And okay, let's move on. This next item, this is the Coonan Cottage. And back in March, Ron, Commissioner Nye, Commissioner Knight, and myself had a meeting up in North County. And if you remember the meeting before, our last meeting before cancel one, we had to, Ron mentioned, Commissioner Nye mentioned about this cottage that was in Santa Ynez, and they wanted to preserve it. It couldn't be preserved, and it was being torn apart piece by piece and moved to Los Alamos. So I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Nye. And so on the way back from this meeting that we had up north, we stopped by in Los Alamos, and we actually saw the house being constructed. And I'm sure it looks completely different now. This is when they were first putting it together. So I'll turn this over to Commissioner Nye.
Okay, I spoke about this a couple of meetings ago. So yes, I drove by it Saturday. It was all fenced off, but you could, the house itself, which was originally built in the 1880s by one of the pioneers of Santa Ynez, and ended up in extreme disrepair and owned by the Santa Ynez band of the Chumash, and they were very anxious to be rid of it. And it was, it was just caved in and scattered all over the lot. So these people had this background and the money and the knowledge to buy it, and with the idea of moving it, and they took it apart piece by piece and saved the original windows that you cannot see in this picture on the other side. But every conceivable piece of that house that was original was saved, including most of the outdoor horizontal board siding. And that is all original. Those two windows there are newly manufactured windows to replace the original ones that had been taken out in the 70s. So wherever, but they used, all the precise design and materials in recreating this. The one sort of thing that's a little hard to get used to is what I measured it, but I think it's something like 4 or 5 foot tall foundation. It turns out that this was a fairly recent requirement by the county because they're very near, they're about a half a block from the local creek. And it is definitely a flood zone. So anybody building in that neighborhood now is required, kind of like the people in Montecito are doing now, is required to raise the level. So, it takes away a little bit from the historic quality, but on the other hand, at least it got saved and it's going to be reused. And there was an old broken down, what they called a barn next to the house in San Ynez. If you go back to the prior picture, that one, you can see it off to the right. And that was literally flat on the ground with scraps. So they rebuilt that. They had to use newer materials on that one. So anyway, the main house looks like it's ready to be lived in. It looks sparkling and it's painted and it's all finished from what I could see. And they say they're going to have a grand opening one of these days. But I guess the big point of all this is that unlike the Montecito Moody Cottage, which was demolished, unfortunately, it shows you that it can be done, that even a place that is not in the best physical condition can be resurrected and maintained and have some use. And the owners assure me that they are going to come back in and have it formally declared a designation by us, probably a place of merit, I would imagine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Nye. Any questions for Commissioner Nye on this? Yeah, go ahead. Turn on your mic.
I was just curious, do we know what the property owners are planning to do with the property? Is it public or?
It's a little, it won't be public. They have talked about it being a vacation rental, but that wasn't a sure thing. I mean, this has been going on for, I don't know, 10 years, getting all the permits, getting it moved, and then all of the permits required in the new location. It's just taken months and months and months and years and years. And their plan was to, they had to rebuild the entire roof structure and surfacing. And they found some of the original or very old wood shingles underneath in the old property. So that's what they put on fire retardant applications on the new roof. So they're doing a very good job of restoring this. So that, unfortunately, I don't think the locals appreciate, everything going tourist up there, but it also took a huge investment to pull this off by these particular owners. And they've done many houses like this across the country.
Yeah, I just
Thank you.
want to add, I was with Ron at the same time. If you look to the left, you see that big truck? That is full of old material from the house. And so they trucked all the material in that truck, and then they're using it as they need it, and it was kept in that truck. I'm sure it's all gone now, but I mean, to me, the expense they did, and the inside, we got to walk in. I didn't take any pictures of it. It was like a few little alcove, little nookie things from the original house that they kept, that they're putting in like in the dining room and that sort of thing. So even though everything is basically going to be new, there's a lot of salvaged material that will be put in exactly where it was before. I just am overwhelmed at the care that they're taking to reconstruct something and the expense that they did. I mean, that foundation alone is just huge. And so it's amazing that we do have a lot of great property owners in this county that want to preserve things. And unfortunately, there's some that don't. And I think, as Commissioner and I said, the difference between the Moody sisters, what happened, and then this one is night. So anyway, I'm sure we'll, if they're going to come back eventually, we'll be looking at this again. So thank you so much. Okay, well, let's move on. I have more chair project stuff. On March 13th, a lot of this is since we didn't have the meeting last month, it's going over. So way back on March 13th, the ad hoc subcommittee on potential new landmarks, we met up in North County at the Bien Nacido Winery property, and we did a tour of the Ontiveros adobe. This is a very old adobe. I took some pictures, which you see in front of you. It is in a remarkable condition. Obviously, there's been a lot of work done on this, and we're looking at this as maybe a potential, but we're trying to get the property owners' approval for this. And so far, the outreach has been a little hard. I have to say, Commissioner Knight has reached out to them. I've been waiting a bit, so probably after this meeting, I'll do another email to the owners. But we'd like to get their buy-in. This adobe, what date do you think it was? 1870s? It's mid 1800s is when it was first constructed. But I wanted to show you the pictures of this. Of course, the fountain you can see in front, that was added. The winery, it was we were able to get in. The door was open, so we were able to go in. It's out rural, so it has its original setting that we always like to have. This fountain you can tell was added, and you can tell there's pavers been put around it, but they use it for special wine tasting events and stuff. But if you look at the one picture at the very top there, the windowsill, there you can see how thick the walls are. That gives you an idea how thick the adobe wall is in that adobe. And just keep scrolling down. There's that front one. That's the back side that overlooks the vineyard. That's the front. There's those pavers, which you can see is obviously. Is that it? I think that's it. Is there one more? That's it. Okay. So what I've been doing with all of these potential landmarks is I'm working with our representative for planning development, Nicole Liu, and I'm having her check into if there's any historic reports done on any of these properties before we contact the owners, because I want to see the historic part of it, so that when we do talk to the owners, we have some knowledge about it to talk to. So this is one that I have not received the historic report, or if there's not a historic report, there'll at least be permits that have been done over the years on this that at least it will say what. Yes.
So I know a lot about this. This is the Ontiveros
Right.
movie, right?
Right.
Ontiveros is not
Right.
another family does.
Mhm.
And I have
Oh, that's wonderful, because we've been trying to get a hold of them. I have the email address to them, but I have not used it yet.
there's also a lot of information I think about this.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, if you could contact me or Commissioner Knight, and like I said, I have not contacted them personally. The general kind of feeling we're getting is they do not want landmark status. And so I want to make sure that we have all the reasonings why they should have a landmark status ahead of time, before we just jump into it. And that's kind of, we're doing all of these potential. So that's great.
Which kind of goes back to why should you land?
Right. But I mean, it's in a gorgeous adobe. It really is. Okay. So that is that. And so the meeting, let me go on with the meeting. We had a great meeting. We went over, there's quite a few properties in the county that we're looking into. I really don't want to go in specifics because we haven't really talked to the property owners yet, and I don't want them to hear their name and not be, so anyway, we're looking into it. Some other properties in the county. There's some really very well deserving ones. It's just a matter of getting the information ahead of time. That was on March 13th. Next thing on chair project report, just a reminder, the mileage forms are in your packet. Please get them to Jonathan before the end of June, because we want the money to come out of this fiscal year's budget, not next year's. If it doesn't get submitted till July 1st, it will be taken out of next year's budget. And as you know, reimbursed for parking and mileage to and from meetings, and also events that are. And the last thing on my chair report is we will be needing at our next meeting to elect a new chair and a new vice chair. My term is up. So I want everyone here to really consider the possibility we need someone to step up and be a chair and also a vice chair. I would be open to being vice chair, to help anyone who steps into the chair position, just to have a good continuity. Anyway, I just want to put that out there, because this will be my last meeting as chair, and at the next meeting we'll elect a new chair. Okay, so that is the chair project report. Okay, we'll move on now to the HLAC budget. Jonathan, we get a new one? I noticed this is the same one that was for the last meeting. Now, you'll see that in your packet, or the original packet, wouldn't be in this one. I had put in the budget for the end of February and the budget for the newer one, which was end of April, but there might be a new one. But I wanted you to see the difference in the budget line items. I don't know if you remember that a few months ago, I talked about having discussions with planning development, and when we talked about budget for next year, is moving around the budget numbers. And if you notice between the two, they did move the numbers around. So the staff support, which has been over 10 years, we've had the same budget, was $6,800. If you look at the new budget, it has been increased to 13,000. My glasses on here, 300. And if you notice, the professional services went from 9,100 to 5,000. So they just moved the dollars up, make it more balanced. As just a reminder for everybody, planning staff support would be like Jonathan and any work that needs to be done for plan marking. And professional services is money that we have available to do projects like the bronze plaques that we just did. That comes out of professional services. If we hire somebody to do a nomination for us, that comes out of the professional services. So our budget is still the same at the bottom, still the 21,100, but at least it makes it look a little bit better for the staff support. And as you can see, we still are over even with the change in the staff support. And of course, I'm sure that it has changed since the end of April. So anyway, this is not up to date, but I just wanted you to see that they did do that change. So there has been some progress in that. When we talk about budget later in the meeting, I'll give you an update on what's going on. This is the informational item, so any questions on this? Mr. Slogan.
Looking at the P&D staff budget, is there any conceptual way to reduce the amount of time that they seem to glom onto for our projects?
When we get to the budget discussion, I have some information that will probably
I'm sorry.
answer that. I hate to do it now because we're going to talk about it later.
Okay.
But I think that expense line, there's a potential that it won't go up as fast as it did before. And I'll just leave it as that for now. Stay tuned. Any other questions? Okay. So let's move on to district reports. This is the time that any commissioners would like to talk about anything that they're doing in their district, any committees that was not mentioned in the earlier report. This is the time to do. Yes, Commissioner Steinmark.
So I recently helped the Caliro Winery move out of the winery they've been in since for 23 years, owned by the Betancourt family. Kind of with the Davages as well, who are early San Ynez pioneers in the wine industry, and the Betancourts have been around for an awful long time. Claire just passed away at 50 years old. Turns out that this is one of the very early wineries in the San Ynez Valley. And on the property is an adobe house, kind of covered up with a bunch of junk because there's been a guy living there for 23 years, but it might be something to look into because it is pretty historical, built in a way that we don't build wineries anymore, all concrete, a lot of it's subterranean, and it's pretty cool. So just something to consider.
What's the
Maybe.
name of the winery again?
It was called Calira, K-A-L-Y-R-A, and we just moved to Calira Winery because the
Oh.
Betancourts did not renew the lease because they're thinking of selling the property. The property's about 100 and some acres.
How did you spell Betancourt?
Betettenco. I think there's a U in there, RT.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Very much. Any other commissioners? Right. Okay, well, there's no other. Huh? That's true. Okay, well, let's move on to our standard agenda. We're going to start with the contract proposal for HVAC for fiscal year 2025. As chair, I got in contact a couple of months ago with Amber Long of Long Historic Preservation Services. As you know, she is the one that we had a contract for this current year, 2024, 2025, for services to help us do the nominations for landmarks and for places of merit. And so I asked her to come up with a new contract that was all ready to go starting here. So what you have in your packet is the new contract that we put together. There is a slight increase, and I don't know why, but I cannot find the old contract. But I believe all the difference in money is basically like $5 an hour more. I believe it was $125 an hour. So that's what she used to calculate. And as you can see, it's $130. To me, is a very reasonable cost of living increase. So all the figures are up just a little bit, and it's up by $5. Just for any new commissioners, to do a nomination, it's a lot of work, and we at times do them. The last one we did took us 7 months. And so we find it's a lot easier to spend our money to have an expert put for it. Done. And we do have a budget. So this is the contract. Now, county asked for us to put a half line. Is that how you want it?
Yes, Chair and Commissioners. Normally on our contracts, we have a not to exceed amount,
Okay.
so we had asked for that.
Everyone turn to the second page. Below the box has the numbers. We had inserted a sentence, but at the time, I wasn't quite sure what they wanted. So the sentence that is in there is amounts paid under this scope of work shall not exceed $1,925. All tasks are 1 hour. The reason we came up with this number is we thought the not to exceed was like for a single nomination. Now I understand that what the number they want in there is for the whole year. Is that correct? So we need to change this number. You know, our budget is for 5,000. We want to do plaque, I'm sure. So we need to just come up with a general number for not to exceed for her contract. 4,000, 3,500. This is open. For discussion. Then we can have her change that. And if there's any other changes that anyone sees in there, and of course we'll have discussion. So I guess let me go through this first. We got, this is an agenda item. So, okay, I did the kind of initial report. So I guess first ask, is there any questions from the public on this, Jonathan? Get that out of the way.
We have no requests to speak and we have no letters submitted.
Okay. So as we do is, we'll first do questions from commissioners. And then at the end, we'll do comments. And then if we want to approve this contract, we can approve the contract. So like now, let's do questions from commissioners on the contract and what I had just mentioned about. Not to exceed number. Anyone would have any questions? Commissioner Nutt.
As I recall, we sort of roughed out a scope of work for Amber in the succeeding year. There's so many reports we would like to have her do. And is that still something we're thinking about?
Yes, what? And I should go on with it. We do have some new people on this. What we do is we collect all this information that we have. So she doesn't have to do all of that, which costs more. So if there's a historic report, there's something on the internet now talks about it. We know somebody. We gather all that information. I, as chair, whoever is chair, will contact her. This is the information we want to do. This is the information for this problem. And we'd like you to do and then the fee that's on here that says for HLAC landmark and place of merit. By the way, the word place of merit has been added. It's not in last year's one, because you have to do both. And you still have to do a nomination. Yeah. The fee is that you see there is a top number. For the two bridges we did last year, they came in under budget. So just a matter has to do with the time. I don't know, is she online by any chance? Because I did not contact her. She is online? Okay. Amber, can you answer a few questions for us?
Absolutely. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. You heard what I just said. Do you want to just go over like on the like a total fee package for like, say you're doing a landmark? I believe last time we did it, it was more based on hours, and a lot of times it's a little bit under of what you quote here in the contract.
Yes, so it is that fee is assuming that I use all the hours that I have assumed for that amount. So that amount includes 4 hours of reviewing the historic reports, 2 hours of drafting the application, an hour to make the necessary maps, and then an hour of virtual meeting time. And that time is typically during the meeting where we are discussing that particular nomination. So all of that is tied up into that fee for $1,040, but it is billed out at actual time spent. So that would be your maximum per landmark application, unless we were in a very specific type of situation where more might be needed, but before that's done, HLAC would have to approve that. So it's very controlled in that way, that HLAC has that ability to determine just how much I do. In the past, working with the chairman, I've let him know when there was a difficulty getting some information. He was able to provide me with more. We were still able to stay under the maximum for that line item.
Yeah, just to add on that, that was the bridge, not Cold Springs, the other one, is where we got new information from Caltrans. And I thought, oh no, she's gonna have to do this all over again. But Amber was able to get that into the nomination, and it didn't take that much time to do it. And she really was very good at making sure it didn't cost us over budget. So that really shows how you need to get all the information ahead of time before we have her get started on this. Thank you so much for that explanation. And I want to personally apologize for not reminding you about this meeting. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it to have you answer. Any other questions to Amber since she's here about the contract? Amber, was I correct that it's basically like a $5 increase per hour?
Yes, so the hourly rate went from 125 an hour to 130, and that accounts for the increase on each line item.
Great, thank you. That's what I didn't have the old one in front of me, but I thought it was that. Any other questions for Amber?
Welcome, Amber. Appreciate you being here. Going back to my question, since we need to come up with an amount to plug into our scope of work, our conversations seem to revolve around two projects per year. In that case, we would maybe put in 4,000 or something. I'm just trying to get this little task taken care of.
4,000, a little less than 4. If it's $1,000, 1,040.
So at 1,040 plus 1 hour,
Oh, my mistake.
10.
Because the in-person is she actually drove all the way down for one of our meetings. For her to, like today, she's doing it online. That is part of the applicant package, that she would be here for questions when we bring it forward online, and that would be part of the 1,040. If we required her to drive down to Santa Maria, then she would be charging the $495. So the last two nominations that we had, she answered all the questions and was part of that. I believe that's correct, Amber.
Yes.
Okay.
If we take her fee of $1,040 and just for a little bit of security and insurance, we added one additional hour of 130. That comes up to $1,170. And if we multiply that by 3, that's $3,510.
It makes perfect sense. And this is another reason never to put me on the budget committee. Thank you.
We did 2 last year. I think, when we've all talked to supervisors, our big goal is hopefully 4. That's all we're doing. But, we haven't got the budget yet, but the chances of any increase. So maybe we should do 13. We just was, what did you say, 1,300? So just to be safe, maybe do 3,500. And then he doesn't use all that, still be used for others. So Amber, it looks like we'll have a vote, I guess, after. We're still in questions though here. So let's leave that 3,500 number as potential that we can plug in there. Any other questions from commissioners on the proposal? Okay, well, let's move to comments on this, on the contract here for next year. Who would like to start? And please, in your comments, ask that $3,500 figure if you're in favor. Commissioner Malcolm.
Okay, I'm going to start with a metaphor. There are many ways to get from point A to point B. You could walk, you could bike, take a bus, drive your car, get a taxi, even a limousine. It just depends what your resources are, how much time convenience, et cetera. You just got to balance that out. And I know commissions evolve from what they started and what needs to be done, and certain things need to happen for convenience sake. However, from getting point A to point B and doing landmarks, this is a limousine service. I cannot justify spending this type of money on a limousine service when we could use a bicycle or take a walk or even drive our cars, you know, metaphorically, to get a landmark done. We are supposed to, as individuals, volunteers on this commission, we're supposed to be the ones to be writing up these landmarks. Unless a member of the public wants to do it, everything's great. And that's what we're volunteered for, using our time. Some of us can't do it. I understand. I'm to blame also. I've not had the time to do it. Or I've not made the time, excuse me. I'll put it on me. However, hiring out a luxury item like this is just not justifiable. This is a lot of money. Sure, the going rate, Santa Barbara is an expensive place to live, et cetera, but we're in the government agency, and to spend this type of money on that is just way too much luxury for a commission like this to be affording. And there's more inexpensive ways. I've mentioned it before. We can get a college student working on their history degree or whatever. It'd be great to get somebody to do that. Maybe give them a stipend for it at 1/5 of the cost, maybe. And one of us can do it together with a college student. There's just many ways to do it other than a luxury limousine service. So, I just can't justify doing this.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Malcolm.
I do. With respect to Commissioner Malcolm, I totally disagree. I think this is an incredibly affordable cost from Amber. Being somebody who has gone through this process myself, the amount of money I had to spend on historians and surveyors and P&D and everything else was extraordinary. And I'm always a believer in, if we don't have the time or the ability to do things, then you do what you do best and you outsource the rest. And if we have an expert that can help us perhaps get more things designated, then I think that's the right way.
Commissioner Luga.
Yes, as a retired architect, I often had projects that I was charging at an hourly rate. I think $130 an hour, from what I understand that she's doing, seems very reasonable.
Oh, at the same time, mention about the figure to put in the change of contract, $3,500 figure.
Yes, I agree with that.
Commissioner Simon, that.
If I may elaborate more, this is a landmark form. It's not a book. It's not a novel. It's not an official pamphlet. It's something to recognize something as a landmark. It's filling out a form, putting all the necessary historical references in there about a certain place. It doesn't need all the government reports and documents in it. That's what in recent times, because it was more convenient and or it's what we've gotten used to over the years. But if you look back at the first landmarks, they're on a sheet of paper filled out. This is the structure, this is the historical significance of it, this is when it was built, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't need a full long as much as it's nice to have, it doesn't need the full long history of every single detail of the property. Just the overview. Like I said, it's nice to have the full on novel approach of it, but I can't justify, I guess everyone else, a couple of us can justify it in their minds because, hey, it's a going rate. This is a professional service, et cetera. But we don't need that. That's the thing. We don't need that type of service.
Mr. Sluga?
Just a quick calculation, 1,040 at $130 an hour represents 8 hours, which is incredibly good deal, in my opinion.
A college student can do it for $20 an hour with your help.
Let's move to other commissioner comments. Commissioner
What I'm thinking is, we are now proactive, trying Denmark and having somebody do it for us. I mean, I've been here and I remember trying to move Moody Cottage. Some of the people who wanted it were filling it out by hand and they were wonderful, but of course, nothing happened. And now that we are being more proactive, as we were with the Montecito residents, that not wanting to be landlocked, I think it's wise that we have a professional look at it, just to do it correctly, because this is us being proactive, not them. Us form, and yes, it's a form, but I don't know how much. I mean, I was an undergrad, grad history. I don't know. They are busy doing their own things. It's hard to get them to do it. The other thing is, in my profession, people are always trying to avoid using a lawyer, and then they wound up spending a ton of money on board because they messed up. And sometimes it's really wise to pay somebody professional, and this is actually reasonable. But I do think that it's optimistic, 1,040 per, because I do think that there may be an in-person meeting or something, a resolution. So when you add up everything, it comes up to 1,795 per, which is the cushion. And if we wanted to use language, maybe what we use here, we say amounts paid under, maybe work with Ann, with counsel to get the correct word. And I don't think that 4,000 is unreasonable if it actually works out to be a little more. Yeah, and times have changed. It's no longer like it was at the beginning, and that's what happened also with the trail issue. Is that was simple at the beginning. We got it done right away, and landmarking each of these trails, but somehow they got lost in the switch over to being on computers and getting into the formal record. So it's just wise that we have just that little bit of distance.
No, but that's not the reason. That's not the reason why having a professional do it had nothing to do with getting lost in the system. That was just old technology. But as far as professional doing it, a college student or whoever does it, hand writes it, that's why we're here to look at it and make it right, nice and all clean for us to approve. That's what we're here for. So to hire this luxury service to do everything for us, it's like, we don't need that. We are here to do the work. And if we can't really do it, we can go to a college student who'll be $20 an hour. They can give a good quality packet. What we need, not what we necessarily want, but what we need. We could look it over and say, oh, mistake. Okay, let's figure out, fix it ourselves. And then we can present it to the rest of the commission. We don't need this luxury item.
Thank you, Commissioner Malcolm. We know where you stand on this, but Commissioner Steinbach?
So let's ask the new guy. What do you think about like college students helping us?
Yeah, hey, sorry, excuse me. I think it would be worth looking into cutting costs and maybe taking a look at bringing in, some newer ideas. I know, for example, like the maps that Amber mentioned, that's something that a college student could do. I mean, that's what I do for my job. I just graduated. I also think that it is important to have a professional though as well, just because these are laws that we are dealing with, and there are criteria that has to be met. And it can get pretty complicated. And I know as a college student or somebody that graduated recently, that can be overwhelming. But I do think that looking at cutting costs, or at least, incorporating some of these like less luxury services might be worth looking into, especially it sounds like the Landmarks Committee is not going to have the funding it used to. I think that was briefly mentioned a little bit, where things might be cut in the future.
So
So,
it's not cut, it's increased. You just haven't had it increase.
right.
since 2012.
Oh,
What's
okay.
happening is hourly costs have gone up. Our budget has not.
Okay.
So, it's like we kind of like a decrease just because we charge more for the
Right.
hourly rate.
So I think it'd be good to look into. Those are my thoughts. And I don't know if commissioners are allowed to do maps, but I would totally be willing to work with Amber to do that, if that meant, cutting down a little bit. Thank you.
Can I make one more
Yes.
comment? There's no reason we can't vote, right? Allow us to use Amber. Small amount of time with reasonable cost. Like other ones that might allow us to keep that more property. We're rather limited due to budget on the number of things that we can do.
Let's see, where to start. I don't see this, definitely is not a luxury item to have Amber help us out. And what we have to remember is filling out this form that every landmark commission requires from the state on down is difficult, and it's calls for education and experience, and it's complicated. I have to admit that I got a PhD in history, in American history at UCSB. It took me a long time. I never had to fill out one of these forms. I never had to look at an architectural structure. I could not have been hired for this with all of my background and expertise in methodology and knowing how to write history and research history. This is a very specific crevice. Architectural assessment and preservation is a very specific specialty, which I was able to just learn on my own and from several friends in the community. So that is what we're facing, is having the public totally lost, and most of our educated public who do not know how to fill out the forms. And the forms, they require a certain amount of expertise, but those are all, that's all because both the federal and state requirements for, as you were mentioning, for designation of historic properties and archaeological properties are established at a national level, and we have no choice in not making sure that we cover those, meet those requirements for designation. yes, the applications of the old days in the 70s for this commission are pretty rudimentary. Yeah, thank you. And we can't use that level of work anymore. And so I think this, as a fellow historian, I can tell you that Amber's is offering a terrific service at her rate of pay and her enthusiasm for the job. And she is another one of those people who is giving back for the greater benefit of our community. So needless to say, I disagreed with our fellow commissioner, but I do so in a friendly way.
Just briefly.
So,
Lansing Duncan has recently retired from our board, and he had the experience and often would do the resolutions and spend a lot of time on it. I'm going to ask each and every one of you, do you have the time and the expertise to do these? Because that's what you're saying, Randy, is that we are going to do it. Are you going to actually? You've done them. So we would look to you to do any.
Sorry, this is not making sense to me. Because, of course, many of us are not historic experts, but we're familiar with the commission enough to know what we need to put on the form. I don't think the public is that stupid to read a form and say, okay, this is the name of it, this is when it was built, this is who owns it. It's the little bit of history of it. This is not, all we need is a form for us to look at and say, this justifies why it should be a landmark or a place of historic merit. We don't need a big novel that goes into history of the whole thing and whatever, which would be nice. Of course, it'd be nice, but all we need is a bit of a justification for a particular property in order to vote, hey, this justifies being a landmark. This justifies being a place of historic merit. And although this is a great and wonderful professional prices, maybe, hey, this is great and extraordinary for what this is. However, a college student can do it for $20 an hour, I'm sure. Or even maybe $30 an hour. That'd be great for a college student. Get a quality product. They can do a bit of research. They can have a bit of pride and enthusiasm in this project, which is just filling out an application for a historic place. We can save a bunch of money doing that, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Commissioner Malcolm, we need to move on here. Okay, one more comment. I have made my.
I guess I was going to ask whether it's now appropriate for somebody to make a motion.
And I'd like a very short comment. I'm sorry to say that you would not believe the number of college students who have volunteered to do something at a historic site and you have never heard from them again. And it happens to this day. I'm still on the board at the main Beg House in Goleta, and someone on the board will say, this great college student came by today and took the tour and really wants to help, and they've got background in history and everything else, and they're going to come back next week and they're going to help us do this or this or this. Never. They never come back. And that's the way the world works now and probably always has. So anyway, it's just not a practical idea anymore. It's the kind of thing that when somebody comes forward and is serious about helping out on their own time, or even for a small amount, it almost never happens. Thank you.
I agree with the majority here that Amber's proposal here is very reasonable, only a slight increase from last year. And I just want to touch on the doing the nomination that we could do it ourselves. I originally started the East Valley Road one that got us into, it's a long time. It took me over 2 months to do the research and to figure out all the requirements and all the A, B, C, D, E, different things and getting it. And that was with a historic report and then giving it to Commissioner Nye, and then he redid it completely. It must have taken us 4 months just to get it so we could bring it to HLAC to done. So it is a lot of work. It's not as easy as you look at that form because you want to make sure it's right, as mentioned, because there are requirements. And this property that we were trying to do, they're multimillionaires. Actually, they were a billionaire, and they have lots of lawyers, and they can pick through and find one thing out of there and make it void. So I think it's very important to have a professional, and Amber Long has worked with us before. She's very easy to work with, and whoever is the next chair can work with her on landmarking or places of merit. And, we have a budget. That's why they give us a budget. And this is one way to use our money wisely, and we can get more landmarks in the county by using her services. Whereas if we try to do it, we'll just get burnt out. I mean, this is not our full-time job. We have other things to do, and we're all volunteers. So I think using her services makes it a lot quicker, and we can get more landmarks accomplished. So anyone want to do a motion for this item? Yeah, go ahead.
I motion that we adjust the proposal from Amber Long to not exceed $3,500. Yeah.
Second? Now we have further discussion on the motion. Commissioner Beluga?
Just detail, what are we changing exactly?
In the bottom paragraph, there is a sentence that says amounts paid under the scope of work shall not exceed. And this is for the whole year, so it's $3,500.
Could those two things be clarified, that for the whole year and the amount?
I'll ask county council on that. Do we need to put for the entire year in there, or how should it be worded if it needs to be changed?
I think that would be fine to add. And maybe take out the language in parentheses that says all tasks and 1 hour of additional needs, because
Get rid of that.
yeah, because that applies more to if you're just talking about one.
So should we put amounts paid under the scope of work shall not exceed $3,500 for this contract?
I had phrased it as under the scope of work because I don't know, she may already have a contract at the county that we're just adding this
Oh,
scope onto. I'm not sure. So that's why I'd phrased it as under the scope of work.
Amber, are you still online?
Yes, I'm here.
Anne, can you maybe work with her just because she's going to have to change it at her end? I mean, we can direct it, but do you want to look into this more, how you want that worded? I mean, we can figure out the number today.
No, I think it's fine to just say amounts paid under the scope of work shall not exceed 3,500
Period.
for the fiscal year
For fiscal year.
2025, 26.
Amber, did you get that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that will be, if we approve it here today, that would be the change. Okay, so we have a second further discussion on this.
Sure. Just the last couple comments, because I feel that whatever argument's been given is kind of fallacious reasoning. We don't need a quick process. We have the luxury of time. These things have been there forever since they're historical. If it takes 4 months, if it takes 8 months, it's fine. It's going to be there. Unless it's in danger, of course. And many of the projects we see are not in danger. So it's just like, hey, we recognize that. We want to officially, formally recognize it as a landmark. We got the luxury of time to do that. As far as college students go, I regret that, yeah, some college students are lazy, but you know what, there are enthusiastic ones. If you pay them a nice wage for it, I'm sure they'll follow through. I'm sure there's lazy ones and there's capable ones. And so you can't just lump a couple anecdotal college students that volunteered and never made it through, whatever. And professionalism, you don't need that much professionalism to fill out an application for a landmark. I've done it, and it went very well. And so whatever reasons I'm hearing to justify doing this luxury item are not cutting it for me. So I regret to say it like this. I don't know how other way, but it's just kind of reaction. I don't have the luxury of time to think, but I'm not hearing any real justifiable explanations for having this luxury item here.
Commissioner Malcolm, let's do this real quick. We're running out of time. We have a long.
Very briefly, this is about a contract. It isn't saying we are going to use her for this amount. We have the option then to use her or not use her or do it ourselves. This way, we already have we would have the contract established to use as needed. That's my comment.
Can I just say, I would like to call the question and take a vote?
Very good. Let's have
I
a
was
roll.
going to make one more comment. I think it is great to have a professional service, and we should have that. If the money doesn't get all used, can that be allocated to other areas?
No, it goes right back to the county general fund.
Okay.
So, this figure that the money that we have, that's why we like to use it otherwise. But, we don't want to use it unwisely either. I mean, if we don't use it, give it back to the county so it can help balance the county budget. Okay, real quick, and then we have the vote. Yeah, if in anything that we do, like we're doing a website, anything goes under professional. Okay, we're going to have a vote now. Let's just do a roll call vote from my left to right. So Commissioner Knight,
Aye.
Commissioner Saluga.
Aye, as amended.
Very good. Thank you for saying that. Commissioner Steinwachs,
Aye.
Commissioner Nye,
Aye.
Commissioner Snow,
Aye.
Commissioner Villarino,
I as amended.
and Commissioner Malcolm,
No.
and Commissioner Kaufman Gray, Chair. Aye. Okay, thank you very much. It was 2 seconds. Okay, let's move on. We'll move on to standard agenda item number 9. This is discussion of potential historic designation for a portion of the Old Coast Highway. The County Historic Landmark Advisory Commission, HLAC, will discuss whether to initiate an application designated a section of Old Coast Highway between Highway 101 by Alisal Road and connecting to Owyhee Summit as a County of Santa Barbara place of historic merit. This is in the 3rd Supervisorial District. This is like we've done in the past. This is like an initial discussion if we want to move forward for a potential landmark or place of merit. Give you a background here. The ad hoc subcommittee on historic landmarks, as we mentioned earlier, we met March 13th on Tavares Adobe. We went through a lot of potential landmarks, and this one we went through, and we thought that this was one of them that we could maybe move forward as a place of merit, not a historic landmark. Now, it could be, we could decide that we think it should be historic landmark, but just a little caveat, a place of merit does not have to go to the Board of Supervisors, which means it would not have to have that extra expense paid to do that. This section of highway was picked due to the stretch of road that is still being used. Most sections have original roadbed, which are from the 1915, and it maintains its original rural setting. So if you look at the map in front of you, the ad hoc subcommittee was first looking at the north part where it joins 101 down to Alisal Road. And that was what we were first looking at as a potential landmark. On Wednesday, April 30th, since we always want to get approval ahead of time from either property owner, and this road is owned by the county of Santa Barbara. And so on Wednesday, April 30th, I had a Zoom call with Mustafa Staji. I'm sorry if I pronounced this wrong. He's the new Deputy Director of Transportation for the County of Santa Barbara. He was very positive for making this a potential place of merit. And he had lots of questions because he really didn't know anything about landmarking and what it would entail for any restrictions for the county to do things. And, I answered his questions very well. There is a bridge that was replaced. You see that little blue line there. The original bridge that was there, built in 1915, was replaced, I think it was 2009 or 8. And unfortunately, I think HLAC at the time wanted to save it. It just couldn't be saved, so they put the new bridge in. He was a little concerned about that, and I mentioned that, well, that is a new bridge anyway, so that could something that would be excluded, from a potential place of merit. And then he said, well, why not add the lower part that connects to the lower end to Highway 101? And I have to say, I personally have never driven south of the connector because I always go to Solvang that way. And so that part of the road is all the original. And when it connects to Highway 101 at the south, it is really, I thought it was complete dead end, but I believe you can still enter. If you're going north on 101, you can still do a quick right and go down that road. A few weeks ago, I went from Alisal Road up it, and it stops with a little turnaround, but you can see cars coming the other direction. So people do sometimes go the other way as a shortcut. So anyway, he was very open to adding, and he felt that that road would be, and I have to say, when we go through the slides, it is a beautiful section of the road. So that section is what we're talking about. There's other sections throughout the county of the original Coast Highway. Most of it is not being used. It's on private property. And as a subcommittee, we thought, well, this is something that people drive all the time. They're going to the park, we're going the back road to Solvang. And, this is the original Highway 101, called the Coast Highway, that is still being used. And so let's start with the slides. Oh, and also, I also contacted Caltrans District 5. Since it was Highway 101, they're the ones that have all of the records and stuff when this was built. And they are very open to giving us any information on this. They have not given us anything yet. They're waiting for us to make a decision before we move forward. So they're waiting for, if we decide to move forward, they're waiting to do the research for us. And I think the most of the research will come from Caltrans because they're the ones that have the records of all the highways in California. So I thought we would start, the pictures I am showing is a website called Highway 101. And there is a person that is doing stretches of the Old Coast Highway in sections and doing history. And so these are photographs that are copyrighted by them. So these could not be used in our, actual landmarking. But I wanted to go through it because it shows a great section. So Jonathan, start at the very first picture. Yeah, let's do that one. So what I'm doing, if you have your paper map in front of you that was in your packet, what I'm doing is I'm going to be starting at the top of Highway 101 in the south, as you can see there. And the pictures I will show you will be as you're driving down the hill to Alisal Road and then up north to where it intersects again with Highway 101. So Jonathan, go ahead and move to the next picture. So this is showing the road. Now all these pictures you're looking at were taken in 2008. So they are a little dated, and I'll show you some current pictures at the end of this. But I like this because it kind of shows you as if you're driving on the road. So this is at the very top when it joins the Highway 101. This was, and then the next picture, it says here, it's the beginning of further. Jonathan, I'm sorry, go back up the second picture. One more. There you go. Okay, so this is as you're going down the hill. And I believe this picture, I'll show it later, is where they have, you cannot go towards 101. It's like a dead end if you're going up the hill, right at this intersection, but they're still allowing traffic to go down the hill. So scroll on up. This shows you it's the original concrete when the highway was built. It's around 1915. This stretch might have been a little bit later, but I know on Gaviota, it was built in 1915. This might be just a year later. Keep going. This is another, you're going down the hill. Again, it's kind of looking up, but this is what the road looks like going down. Like I say, this is the original highway that everyone used to drive on to go north to San Francisco. And then the bottom one shows the curve as it goes around. Keep going, Jonathan. And then there's a turnout, and you can look down and see the whole stretch of the highway. That's Alisal Road and the upper little T section that you see there. That's where you turn off to go to Alisal Road. And then that stretch is that flat stretch through the farmland that goes across the new bridge. Keep going. This is another view of the road going down. And you can see it's very curvy. It's just the original setting. Nothing's been changed. Keep going. And that's, I believe that's the turnout I did to take, you go down the valley. Keep going, keep going. Okay, and this is where it flattens out, and there's a farm that it goes by before it flattens down to the T. And then that bottom picture is the barn on the right, and there's a house on the left. And I think Alisal Road turnoff is where that little yellow sign is just beyond. Keep going. Okay, and this is, look, this is the intersection of Alisal Road and the old highway. And you can see it's all the original concrete. Keep going. Keep going. And okay, and then this is where it joins, go back one, just one more, I think. I didn't do a picture. Okay, this is where that the winery is, and then there's that little store. You can stop and get vegetables in the summertime. There's a barn there. So this is in front of that winery that's close to the north section by when it joins 101. And then the last picture is of the road joining Highway 101. And that's the turnoff. And then, Jonathan, if you want to do the pictures I took. Okay, so this is the flat area we're all used to. When I had the discussion with the Deputy Director of Transportation, this is a concern. If you were there during the heavy rains, this flooded. And they always have a flooding problem here. So their concern is they're planning to maybe do some culverts to help drain this. He was concerned about that. And I mentioned to him that, well, it's a place of merit. So basically a place of merit is different than historic landmark, and that it allows them to do things that they have. So if we do a place of merit, they could put the culverts in, and it wouldn't have to come to us for approval. The next picture. This is where I told you there's a roundabout where you can't go all the way to the 101. This is at the south end of the road where it's a dead end. It's just a roundabout, but cars can keep coming the other direction, which I did not realize until I pulled to take a picture. And all of a sudden, a car zipped by it. Obviously, they were on the way to maybe, Okay, next. And then this is the current roadbed as of a week ago. So it's still the original that's shown in these other pictures. At one time, it looks like they had blacktopped it, but you can see that's just wearing off. It's concrete showing. Next picture. And that's showing again, going down. Is there one more? I thought I sent you a picture there. I thought this was a great picture. This was done a week ago. So it shows you the Old Coast Highway down below and the setting. I mean, you couldn't ask for I mean, you know, Old Coast Highway was Coast Village Road in Montecito. You go up Gaviota, you'll see stretch of it off to the side, but this is something people still drive on. So this is the stretch of highway that we're discussing today. And we're discussing whether we want to move forward with creating a nomination for potential designation of the Old Coast Highway. I guess the discussion today, should we go all the way for landmark status, or should we do just a place of merit? The other discussion, like I say, Caltrans is waiting to hear from me after today's meeting. They will get the information that we need of the history of this. So if we decide to move forward and have Amber Lawn do this, it would not be until after we get all the information together. So I guess today we could discuss if we want to move forward. I don't know if we want to discuss, if we want to do a landmark or contract Amber Long at the time, or should we wait until I get all the information and then have a discussion, or we could do this all at once. So first, before we move on to questions from, okay, let's do questions now. Go ahead.
I'm curious, the feelings of your liaison with Caltrans as to place of historic merit versus.
You know, it was actually, it's Krista who I've been working with, and they're really looking into it. What they do is it's District 5 is like San Luis Obispo in our area. Most of the records are all in Sacramento, and I have to say they're the ones, those bridge pictures that we got for the last landmark, they dug them out at Sacramento in the archives. And so that's what she's going to do, is she's going to request Sacramento, the people in Sacramento, to dig, pull it, and go from there. So, you know, maybe we should wait until we find out details of this information, if we wanted, which direction we want to go. I think the reason why the subcommittee was thinking about this is at the current time, we would not have to go to the Board of Supervisors for final approval. As you know, when we take something to the Board of Supervisors, we are charged the hours of staff to put it on their agenda. And it's now coming out to $5,800 to do a landmark. After we approve something, for them to do final approval, it's about $5,800. So if we do this a place of merit, how it's current working, there's all that money is not being charged. But again, if we really think this should be a historic landmark, you know, maybe we should wait and find out what they think. The other thing is, I mentioned when I had the discussion with the Deputy Director of Transportation, if it's a place of merit, they're pretty much allowed to do what they need. I mean, if the road falls apart, they can repair it. Say, my personal opinion on this is the roadbed is wonderful to have the original. Things don't last forever. I think the idea that we're preserving the route, the actual, you know, you drive on it and wow, this is the old highway. If it has to be paved over, my personal opinion is, well, the original route still being preserved, curves and stuff like that. So that's why I was thinking a landmark, a place of merit versus a landmark. It's a landmark, they have to come to us for a lot of these extra things, and they might not be in favor of us doing more. But that is something I'm just speculation now. Okay, Commissioner Saluga.
Yes, I support the place of merit. Just have a couple of questions. So this is the California Department of Transportation that owns
Yes.
the right of way.
Well, no, the county now owns the road.
Okay, the county,
We're getting approved. The person I talked to is the Deputy Director of the County of Santa Barbara Transportation.
okay, and so they have future responsibilities for maintaining.
Right, and they were concerned after those big rains that we had, not this year, but last winter. It flooded completely down there, lots of mud, they had to bulldoze it. So he mentioned that they're trying to, they don't have funding now, but they're looking at future funding to put culverts in, so that would not happen.
But at the same time, the road is providing access to the properties that are adjacent to it.
Right.
So there is a certain requirement, if you will, for them to maintain the road as long as they have the right. That's all I have.
Yeah, and just so you know, see, Caltrans used to own the road. That was Old Coast Highway, which is Highway 101. That's why they have all the records, because they're the ones that built. Okay, Commissioner Steinman.
So I'm on this road a lot because I'm part of the Valley Casino, which got crashed and a lot of it there. Is it part of the Camino Real or no?
I would
I believe
think so.
it's the original highway.
Ridge Highway, yeah, the original Highway 1, it would.
That would be cool. So I guess my question is, does this take away time, effort, and money that we could use on something more visual and more visited?
Well, if you're asking the chair, my opinion is that's why I place some merit, because it's not going to cost a lot of money, except for the one nomination. I mean, if we decide to do it ourselves, or if we decide to have Amber Long do it under contract, that would be the cost. We wouldn't have to have that $5,800 cost to bring. It's still a cost. It's still a cost.
I'd kind of like to add on to that
Yeah.
also. My question also was, what precedents would this set if we put it as like a historic, or nominate it as a historic landmark? Then are there other segments that we'd want to continue to further preserve, or and basically that just comes to the question of costs, as if, yeah.
Well, I think the reason this I'm wrong is we thought just preserving a section of it that's being used. I mean, when you drive up Gaviota before it turns to go into Canyon by, you'll see part of it on the side of the road there. There's also parts of the highway down by just north of Goleta, that like frontage road that used to be. But a lot of it is not accessible. Like the one on off in the field, that's private property. So a lot of times people don't. So the idea that we thought is, okay, we're preserving just one section in the county, it's still being used, and it has its original setting. When you look at this picture, I mean, this is like California used to be years ago. There's a section, I mean, Old Coast Highway in downtown Harbor. That was the old highway, but it's completely changed. Divided. So, I mean, from Oliver Avenue. So we as a subcommittee thought, well, this really proves, will preserve the essence of California in through the Santa Barbara area, county area of the original highway. I mean, because it's original pavement. Even if they pave it over, it's still going to be the original. And I don't think there's any talk about paving it over. I'm just saying that after we're long gone, they might have to pave it. But the whole idea is it's the original road. It's the original, you can see Model Ts driving on. I mean, it's just, so that's why we picked this one. And sure, there's other sections that could be added later, but we felt this would be the easiest thing. And, getting the county to transportation to agree on something. And it's tentative agreement. I'm not saying they're agreed to it completely, but they're tentatively agreeing to allowing us to do this. And, any type of regulation, they have enough as it is. They don't want that. So that's why we kind of picked this section. But that's a great question, though. Any other questions on that?
I guess we just have to decide whether we should go for landmark or for historic merit, or even look at it as.
Or there's a
what are we-
question today is we could decide we want to move forward, wait for Caltrans to give us all the information, have another discussion meeting, and then make that decision after we get all the information. And then at the other future discussion meeting, we can decide if we want to do it ourselves or contract it to Amber Long. I mean, there's different things we could do. But, we could just decide to move forward today. Well, we're still in questions. But those are different things that we could do. When we get to comments, that is when I'd like you to suggest what you'd like to do. Before we move forward, though, I think we should see if there's any public comment. I always want to make sure we ask that.
We have received no letters and we have no attendees currently, so we have no requests to speak.
Any more questions? And then we can move to comments. Who would like to start on?
I got a quick question.
Okay.
Um, Sorry. I remember years and years ago when the access from Highway 101 was more restricted, particularly on that southern unit. There was an issue with the farmland, which a pioneering family owned at that time, all of that land. And there was some issue with private property, and the Board of Supervisors had to make some decision about that road. And maybe it was a different connector that happened to go across his property, but I guess we are pretty certain that the county still has ownership of that roadway.
Again, he's fairly new.
Yeah.
So he might have misspoke, but he felt that that was all county
Okay.
property. Do you have the map? Bring the map. So if you look at the map, that southern end at the top of the, I guess they call it the Weehee Summit. I have not, going northbound, made a quick right, but every time I go southbound, I can see the road is there. And I believe it's a one-way going north. In other words, cars cannot go access Alisal Road and hit turn Highway 101 there. But, you know, this slide that I showed you from 2007, it mentions that the road is closed completely. I think they probably did the turnaround like I did and not realize that that road is still connects to the freeway. It's very dangerous for anyone to exit right there, do it. But when I drove down, I could see this little road right at the top of the hill that I think is that road, but I don't know for sure. So I believe it's a one-way, because when I parked the car to take a picture, actually two cars, I was, you know, in the street taking a picture, and also this car just zoomed, and I had just stopped my car in the middle of the road because I figured, oh, no one drives. And it just kind of zipped around my car. So obviously they can go that direction. And I don't think it was a property owner, because there are ranches right in that area. And there are, you can see some roads that join. Yeah, try it. Just be careful when you try to get off that freeway. 'Cause it's
Okay, well, moving to comments, I'm
Yeah.
all favor of exploring the potential. Sometimes for a landmark, on the surface, it, so to speak, it certainly does not appear to warrant landmarking, but we don't know what's in the archives, and sometimes surprising things that give us a new perspective on how significant something should be considered. But at least we should definitely try get moving on the place of merit designation. It's something that's, again, because this is a public property, it makes the process a lot easier to navigate than if it were privately owned. So that is a good reason for going forward. And if some people on the commission do not know this, there are many sections of roads all over the country which are landmarked. It's not unusual to designate a section of road, and quite a few in California that are designated. I don't know if this commission has ever done a roadway, but it's certainly not an unusual designation. Thanks.
I just want to, the deputy director of transportation, one of his questions was, we want to sign. And said, I really can't answer that, but I don't know, we might not want to sign just to detract from the beauty of the thing, but that's something that sounds like they might. Anyway, we're going to comments and Commissioner Malcolm.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think this is a great idea to even landmark it because we got the original road, original materials, and nothing's been altered, except for, over the years, I guess the blacktops wearing off. Other than that, it's pretty much original. So why not landmark it? But I would be cautious and get all the information first, do our research on it, and decide from the research that Caltrans gives us, I guess, and whatever the county says as well, assuming it does belong in the county now, right? Yeah, so,
Well, county owned, like I say, the state is one that has all the original records. They built.
and that they're giving it to the county or just loaning it? How is that going?
I don't know the history. They probably, maybe that will be in the records they give us when it was turned over to the county.
But as far as the records that we're getting, I guess you're saying those records are being transferred to the county from Caltrans or just on loan or copied?
It has the records, I
Oh.
believe, in Sacramento.
Uh-huh.
And Krista, who I talked to, she is going to be talking to them, to find out whatever records they have.
Uh-huh.
Probably, like you say, we'll have the record when it was turned over to the county, and about the history when it was built. Because all I know is it was around 1915, but that was the Gaviota section. It might be a little later. This section.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a lot of just questions, and they might have great historic pictures.
Right.
That we can put into a report. So all of this is, she emailed a couple of weeks ago is, do you want me to get that first? Have you found out if they want to move forward? And I said, well, we'll wait till today's meeting, then I'll email you and let you get started on finding it.
Okay, well, definitely, yeah.
Let's see, we have Commissioner Steinwalk, and then we'll have Commissioner Bill.
May I add that Caltrans will provide digital copies of stuff that's relevant. That's their normal process.
I think we should move forward getting as much data as we possibly can. I don't know much about the Camino Real program, but if there's any funds from that, it is part of the original Camino Real. Would be interesting to know. And just my comment, I guess is more of an opinion, is that it is beautiful down there. It's not visual for most people. I don't think most people should go on that road very often. And I'd prefer to spend $5,800 for providers for a landmark designation. Or
Yeah, I'd just like to say I support going forward with it, but also getting more data and more information from Caltrans, just to know like what the proper designation should be for it.
Okay, well, does someone want to move make a motion to move forward? Sounds like there's a consensus to, I guess I should say something, but pretty much know my opinion. I think it'd be a great either landmark or place of merit, and I believe that we should move forward. So if we want to do a motion, and it sounds like we want to not make that decision now, come back to all the more information we have.
I can move. I move that that HLAC initiate the process of designating a section of Old Coast Highway between Highway 101 by Alisal Road connecting to Nohoe Summit as either a County of Santa Barbara place of historic merit or landmark, depending upon the information we obtain from Caltrans.
I'll second that.
We have a move in second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll be moving forward, and I'll get the email going this week. Okay, agenda item number 10. Pardon me? You want to take a quick, does anyone need a break, or do you want to just move forward? Everyone's ready? Okay, we'll just move forward. Okay, item 10. Discussion regarding updates of existing HLAC website content. This will be a discussion on updating website content to include relevant information for landmarks, County of Santa Barbara landmark script and photos attached. Landmark number 47 onward, we have the resolutions on our website. This is something the chair noticed when I was at a meeting. I was at a supervisor's meeting, and we had a question from Supervisor Hartman asked for the Arroyo Hondo Bridge designation during that nomination. Nomination for it in front of the Board of Supervisors. She asked if there'd be pictures on the website of the bridge because you remember those great historic pictures that are in. And I said, you know, we will. And then I started looking at our website, and I started clicking on all of the different landmarks that we have. And that's where I discovered that if you go through landmark 1 through landmark number 47, they all will have a little description, and then it will have the resolution that was signed by the Board of Supervisors. Now, and there's the resolution attached. So all of our newer ones, all that's been going on our website is the resolution. It really doesn't say any information to the public when they look at our landmark. If you look at other county landmark websites, they will have kind of like what we have. Now, I understand in the past, there was a lot of discussion that what is on the website on those early ones, like the first one you see there, didn't really have a lot of detail for the information. And so what I was thinking as chair, an easy solution would be, let's just add the nominations to the website in addition to the resolution. That way people at their leisure could go through the nomination, read the history if they want to. And it was all the nominations were approved by HLAC, because as you know, a lot of nominations come from the public. We change it completely. They come back with it. And then so what we end up approving as a nomination is what we as a body commission has approved. So the thinking was for me to make things easy and would not cost a lot of money is let's just have, and I want to have a discussion here with Jonathan Martin on the time involved. The idea was just to add the original nomination from landmark number 47. In the future, if you want to update have funds, that is something down the road. But I was just thinking something that can be done right away, that people that click on our new landmark get more than just this resolution. So that's what I brought forward with you today. And before we get started with questions, I do want to ask Jonathan, are the nominations easy to give to IT to add to each landmark that needs to be added?
Yes, the nominations are easy to get them to IT. They don't have to do anything. We just have to give them a finished product of what we would expect to see on the website.
And how much of your time do you think involved?
As long as all of the information is readily available, and maybe if we can take a look at the 10 landmarks and see what photos or just examples you want to have on there. I'd have to start one to give you an estimated time for 47
We
through
just don't want to
57.
end up costing a lot of money,
No,
county money.
yeah.
If it's something you just pull up the computer and say, okay, this is the resolution, I can add it, send it to IT, to add it to the website, is what I would think. Go ahead.
I have a suggestion. So the nominations usually go to the board. So you could potentially just have a link to the nomination document that's already at the clerk of the board's website.
So they would have the nomination at the clerk's.
It's posted online with the Board of Supervisors agenda. When the item goes to the Board of Supervisors to get approved, one of the attachments is the nomination form. Usually,
Is that something Jonathan would go to them for, just to take that and attach it to?
Sorry, I could probably jump in. could probably just go to the Board of Supervisors hearing when that landmark was made a landmark or a merit. And I can link it somewhere under the description of the landmark, and it could take it directly to the Board of Supervisors page. It'll show them all of the documents that were uploaded for that Board of Supervisors meeting, which is probably more than we usually have for our own landmarks before we
That's
send
why
it.
I wanted it something that would be, the public wouldn't get overwhelmed, you know. That's why I thought the nomination does have pictures, it has it, but I like the idea that you put the one that's approved by the Board of Supervisors with the resolution, which is approved by the Board of Supervisors. That makes a lot of sense, because sometimes we might have older copies that have been changed since they approved it at their end. So if that would be the easiest way to do it, I think so. Yeah, go ahead. That's what the whole idea is. You know, so our nominations, they're definitely bigger than what you see in front of you today. But they still have the pictures that very visual. So someone that doesn't want to read everything, they can just scroll and say, oh, that's it. Or that's the bridge when it was being constructed, or that's the whatever we have. And then if they do want to go in detail, it is available on the website for them to look at. You know, I love the format of this, as far as it's just like, you know, very quick. But I think having that extra detail for the people that want it, doing research, I think would be good to have available. So any more questions on this? I mean, we can go to comments and decide what we want to do. I'm not, you know, it sounds like Jonathan could do it. And like I said, I brought this up because Supervisor Hartman asked the question, if there going to be pictures of the bridge? And I started scrolling through, and all it is the resolutions on the newer ones. There's no visuals that people can see what we're landmark. Be quiet here. Does someone want to do a comment and then maybe do a motion?
Well, my comment is, I think it's an excellent idea, and I was part of Lansing, and we were going to look at the actual landmarks. We went around to see if they were, when we were looking to get plaques, we went around, and I do know there is some problems with some of the ones I found. I had First District, and there was a tree that was one of our early, like really early, and I couldn't find it. Photos, and I found all the ones and brought photos of to our meeting. But I just think it's a great idea. But I think some of our landmarks especially that tree down, it was by Carpinteria High School. And it's all avocado, and I couldn't find any old oak tree where an original school had been, and it was, it was roaming around. So anyway, yes, I think this is a wonderful thing to explore, and if Jonathan can do it simply by setting up links, that would be good with the photographs, because we look at so many wonderful photographs. That's just my.
I was just thinking by just, so we got the links for the Board of Supervisors, that's the packet. That's the full packet
Website.
on that link. So,
Pull up the website, and we can just do a click and show you how it works.
yeah, so
But I think right now it's just one click and then everything comes up. There's not a separate click for a resolution or for the nomination. So like this historic landmark #1, if you click it, it has the pictures and then it has the resolution following.
okay, that's it. And
But what I was thinking, we could just add the nomination with the resolution. So when they hit that, the nomination would come up first.
oh,
And then the resolution it all would come.
follow. Yeah, that would be nice.
Because you
But-
can see the little links under each one. So
Uh-huh.
just link on number, say 47. See, this is what comes up. It's just the resolution.
Okay,
And there's nothing, no pictures, not the original nomination.
So there'll be a second link with
Yeah,
the
and-
packet.
Well, no, go back, Jonathan, and link, and then click on
Mm.
number 46.
Mhm.
So this is what comes up for 46. Some reason after 46, they stopped doing this.
Okay,
But that's very little. Some people feel we should have more information than just a few sentences like it's on here. And then some people feel, that's why I was saying the nomination would be the easiest. It wouldn't cost us anything to create all of these
Mhm.
pages, which I think for me, it's very quick, it's easy to see, oh, hey, that's the landmark. But what we would be doing is we wouldn't be doing this. We're just putting whatever the nomination it was on the screen in addition to the resolution.
right. Yeah, sounds good.
Because all of our nominations, I believe, all have some pictures of what.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you want to make a motion?
I think we should ask Jonathan to give us an estimate on a per link, per landmark that is not currently on the website as to how much time it's going to take, and then we will move forward with that.
Second? Okay,
On second,
okay, we have a second. Further discussion before we vote? Any further discussion?
I think Jonathan had something he wanted to say real quick.
I can make a template for these landmark sites, so that way we can just plug in the information going forward. I mean, initially, it might take me a little bit of time to get 47 through 57, but after I get the template, it shouldn't take that much time at all, just plugging in.
Okay, well, I think it's
Information.
worthwhile. And actually, I believe our budget, we still have a little, just for the new commissioners, our budget, if we go over on one line, but we're under on another, it's the total amount we can't go over, the 21,100. So I know we're over on staff time right now, but we still had some money under professional services. And I haven't seen the latest budget, Jonathan, but if
Oh, I actually have it now.
you have it now, is there a little money left in there at all, or are we over?
Yeah, we're at 10% left over for the year.
So if you could get this done this month, it would go into this year's, and
Yes,
then we wouldn't
absolutely.
be, your hourly wouldn't go into next year's budget.
Here is the budget for updated. We have 10% left total of the fiscal year.
Okay, that's the end of May, so June, yeah. So, yeah, so we have money to do this, even though we're over on your line. But we still will be within budget for the year. So do it right away.
Sir.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you so much.
That was just for asking Jonathan for the time, but not for him to do it. The motion specifically.
Oh, didn't we ask, wasn't the motion to do it? Okay, you want to do a different?
I move that we ask Jonathan to move forward with the updating of the website as soon as possible for the end of the budget year,
So adding the adding the nomination
adding the nomination packages to the list.
on the website. And we have a second still? Okay, that's all right.
Second.
Commissioner Snow always likes a second, so you have to be quick if you want to be a second. Just let you know. Okay, any further discussion on this new motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, it's complete. Okay. Okay, now, budget discussion. Item number 11. Discussion of the HLAC budget for 2025, 2026. For new commissioners, this has been a very, very long process, and I'm just going to go over a lot of things here. And this is going to be after the Board of Supervisors designation of Arroyo Hondo Bridge. Everything I'm talking about is what happened after that. So after the Board of Supervisors meeting that designated Arroyo Hondo Bridge a County of Santa Barbara Historic Landmark, I sent a thank you email to each supervisor. Supervisor Hartman responded with a question: how do other counties fund their landmark commission? very simple question, very, makes sense, right? The chair reached out to Ventura County on March 7th. Within the same day, I got a response, a really detailed response from the senior planner in Ventura County. And their Historic Landmarks Commission is called the Cultural Heritage Board. And the senior planner works with their Cultural Heritage Board. And this is a response that I got from them. One, they do not have a separate budget. Funding for their Cultural Heritage Board comes out of the General Planning Division's fund. Just like here, the planning department, say the Architectural Board of Review, they don't have a budget. It just comes out of planning development. We're the only commission that I know of that has a separate budget fund. Okay. Applicants are charged fixed fees for the Cultural Heritage Board to review projects and fees for both they have the Mills Act and also for annual inspections. So they have a fee schedule that is on their board, and I put all of this in your packet, and I'll go over it after I go over this, so you'll understand what's going on. 3, the staff tracks the time spent on these projects, and the fees are updated every 3 years in an effort to fully recover the costs. So the fee structure that they have, which by the way, they have it all on their website. So if you're a property owner, you can go in there and say, okay, if I'm going to do this, there's a fee for the Cultural Heritage Board, and this is how much it's going to cost. Right on, you don't have to go to the counter to do it, it's right on the website. 4, the Mills Act contract there, like I said, they have the Mills Act contract. Initial applications require deposit, and all staff time spent bringing those to hearing before the Cultural Heritage Board is tracked and recovered. So with the Mills Act, when someone wants the Mills Act to use it, they are charged for the fees to do that. 5, one exception is for landmark designations brought by property owners. They do not charge for those fees and costs for staff time to get fully covered by the planning division budget. So if a property owner brings an application to the Cultural Heritage Board, the property owner is not charged for the staff time for a landmark. Here's the big one. 6, in Ventura County, the Cultural Heritage Board has the authority to designate landmarks, which eliminates the need to bring these requests to the Board of Supervisors and expend even more staff time and costs. So in other words, they have always had the authority for their Cultural Heritage Board, the final say. And it's just like any other commission, it can be appealed. If it's appealed, then it goes to their Board of Supervisors. So their Cultural Heritage Board doesn't have to move on to the Board of Supervisors for final then. And I got a very question. Person could not believe that we had to do that. Okay, so after I received this information, before I move forward, so in your packet, you'll see there's 3 sheets of paper. On their website, they actually have a flow chart for people to look at to see how it goes. And that's that funny colored looking thing that's in front of you. It's basically, when I read it, they have different names, so it makes it confusing. But it's basically if there's a if they require a historic report, because the property has, it has to go to the Cultural Heritage Board. And there's different ways that they move down. And then there's the fee chart that shows you, if you start to look at what this is, you look at the fee chart, and that's what the person is charged. So the idea is, if a property is, say, there's a big property that's being remodeled and it's deemed cultural, it's 50 years old, it has all the requirements, and it requires a historic resource report. Property owner has to do a historic resource report. If that is required, it has to then go to the Cultural Heritage Board for review. And that's kind of like what we used to do here. And as you know, right now, these are being bypassed. Property owner says, I don't want. So even if they don't want to have a landmark, but it's deemed culturally historic, it goes to the Cultural Heritage Board before they get their application to be approved or whatever. And their board looks at it. So that's just to show you the fee structure. And of course, the big thing is they do have the Meals Act, which is, you know, it's a big thing. And then just to show you, this is the public page that I have that's on their website. And if you know, I'm not going to go over it individually here, but it shows you all the different things that they do. They have the Meals Act. So after I got all that information, I emailed my information to Supervisor Hartman and to her assistant, Gina Fisher. I knew that, if you remember, April was the month that the initial new budget, county budget, was going to the supervisor for review. And that's what they do in April. July 1st is starting the new fiscal year. So they're going through all the budgets now. So mid-March, after I did this, states correctly here. So this was, okay, March 7th is when I originally reached out to Ventura County. In mid-March, I received an email from Lisa Plowman's office that she wanted to meet me in person for a meeting. And so we set up a meeting on March 25th in her office, and it was also with Travis Seward. And so we went over the Ventura County Cultural Heritage Board. They like the idea of not having to send landmarks to Board of Supervisors for final approval. They like the idea of having fee structures for projects. They still said there's unfortunately no money to give us an increase in our budget next fiscal year. And if we were to change the way things go to landmarks go, of course, you know, our chapter 18A would have to change because they would have to take that out. Right now it says 90 days after we approve it has to go. So chapter 18A, which directs how we run would have to be changed. And then at all of this, they were very agreeable. I mean, it's a very good meeting. We also discussed about projects coming to us. We had a very long discussion about that, and they're open to it. But there's some things that they're going to have to be changed. So I'm just kind of leaving that in there right now. I didn't want to press too much on that, but they are open for us to still review some projects. So, and then the big thing that came through the meeting is Lisa said, Lisa Plowman, Director of Planning Development, that their department cannot make the initiation to make changes. It has to come from the board. So after that meeting, I got a contact with Gina Fisher and Supervisor Hartman. And they said, well, let's have an in-person meeting. Because at first I thought, well, I'll just email Gina Fisher and explain what was needed. And they immediately, the same day, said, let's plan to have a meeting. And so we met in person, Gina Fisher and Supervisor Hartman. And I went through everything that you see here today that I just went through about Ventura County. And that was on April 7th, that was just like 4 or 5 days before they were having their budget. It was just before they were going to have the budget. And so we met and I went over everything and gave her our talking points that we've done. You went to the other Board of Supervisors, those talking points that we did. I just gave her the copy of all those talking points that they could look at in the future. Of course, like chapter 18A shows everything, how it has to move, projects move, and all the information that I gave you today about the County of Ventura. And Supervisor right there directed Gina Fisher to contact certain people, say who, and to look into the possibility of, they like the idea of not having to go to them, especially the money aspect that would save the county money, and it's to save time. So, so April came, and I figured I'm not going to find out because I knew they had the meeting the following week, and I wasn't going to bother them. Then the Board of Supervisors had their discussion. It was the week of April 14th. So on Friday, May 2nd, I emailed Supervisor Hartman, and if there was any progress on the HLAC after initial budget. I was kind of waiting for them to come, but I figured, okay, it's been now 3 or 4 weeks, and I'll let her ask her question. So I got a very brief email, and I just want to read you the bullet points. So on Monday, May 5th, again, right after I had emailed her back, Supervisor Hartman responded, and during their budget discussion, excuse me, the Board of Supervisors directed planning and development, one, to come back with changes to simplify the process so all designations don't have to come to the Board of Supervisors. Two, Board of Supervisors directed planning and development to come back with ideas for funding the work of HLAC. It might not mean more money exactly, but we are possibly seeking a different funding model for it. And the third bullet point is we won't be seeking landowner incentives right now. County's finances don't allow it over the next 3 years. So basically, the Mills Act is kind of a non-discussion right now. It's very unfortunate because that is what really incentivized spring domination. But as of, in May, there's stuff going on. And I'm kind of waiting. I don't want to get a hold of planning development, find out, oh, are you doing this? Are you doing this? I think it's happening. You just have to wait. I had a verbal conversation with another supervisor, and they're very supportive of us, of landmarks not having to go to them for final approval, especially when they look at how costly it is, $800. And also, you have to remember, if a landowner like All Saints by the Sea Church, they did the nomination themselves. They brought it to us. And as you remember, when it went to the Board of Supervisors, they did not realize, but they were charged $58,000 for the Board of Supervisors to approve it. And unfortunately, it was like an after the fact thing. So they ended up paying for it. But you realize that this would be incentive for property owners, because if we have final say, the property owner wouldn't have to pay that. So we might get more incentives to do landmarking, even without the Mills Act, just by them knowing they don't have to pay for the supervisor. So this is where it stands right now, but I think it's very good news. And we just have to wait. And I'll do follow up, or the next chair do follow up. And but I think we're going in the right direction. It's not as quick as we had hoped for. But I think we are going in the right direction. A lot of it is because all of you met. So this is the discussion. So if you have any questions, let's open it. More further discussions on this.
I just want to thank you. Thank you for all your work on this.
Oh, it's just a matter of trying to get something done. But thank you. We should ask if there's any public comment, as it is an agenda.
Is there any public comment on this item? We have no requests to speak and we have no letters submitted.
Okay, so anyway, kind of an informational item, but I think it's very good news. And but it really opened my eyes on what other counties do. And actually, the city of Santa Barbara is the same way. Their landmark makes the final decision. It doesn't have to go to city council. Okay, well, let's move on to our final agenda item. Agenda item number 12, proposed contract for bronze plaque. County Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission will review, discuss, and decide whether to use the Franklin bronze plaque, produce 10 by 7 inch custom bronze plaque, including 3 changeable lines for All Saints by the Sea at the Church, Royal Bridge, Oak Spring Canyon. Standard production is approximately 5 to 7 weeks. Final layout approval and receipt of payment, plus time in transit. Depending on the size and complexity, the estimated total includes shipping is $500. And it would come from our fiscal year 2025. The last month said, we had approved 3 new landmarks last year. We don't really have the money in this year's budget. So I thought, well, I would move forward get contact, find out how much it would cost to do 3 new plaques for our 3 newest landmarks. And so I sent an email to our original company, which is Paul Zimmerman Foundries, which was a family-owned business. I mean, you went on their website, every last name was Zimmerman. And they're the ones that did our plaques that we just put up recently. Well, it turns out company Franklin Bronze Plaques just took over Paul Zimmerman Foundries. The people retired, but some of the original people in this new company are original employees of Paul Zimmerman Foundries. I think they broke off a few years before Paul Zimmerman is no longer around. But so it took a while because I didn't hear anything, but they were nice enough. One of the people from Paul Zimmerman forwarded our email to the new company. And so what I have in front of you today is the new company, which is the Franklin Bronze Plaque. And I put the old invoice from last year so you can do a comparison. And it's very similar. And then they already did a mock-up of the 3 plaques for us. So the whole idea is if we want to approve this to move forward, I can get them to get started production and it would come out of next year's budget. And we can, because by the time it gets done, it wouldn't happen until next month.
I was just wondering, with the 10% we have left with Jonathan's mission that he has, would we squeeze that into this?
I don't think we'd have time. It takes them 5 to 7 months. I mean, whatever we produce it. And
Oh, I
do
see.
approval,
And we
I
can't
don't
pre, I
think
get it.
they bill us. I mean, if they bill us ahead of time, and
Yeah.
we can get them to pay it, it would be great. But they found our original templates in the other company. So they just sent me this last week. So there's 2 options that's in front of you. If you look at the pictures of the bronze plaques, and then I'll go back to the invoice. There's option A and option B. Option A is going strictly as the samples, which is the Rocky Nook Park. Option B is allowing them to dictate the size depending on the words of the plaque. And as you can see, I think, we need to decide which option that we like best. And I did get them to put the hyphen, because originally I gave it, they didn't have a hyphen between by, the C, and the church. But it's the same format if we're doing our, we decided, remember, to move forward with a standard format. So this is the same font and everything as our other class. So let's look at the invoice. The font size or the plaques are the same. They're all 10 by 7. And so if you pull up the invoice, Franklin Bronze plaque, not the old one, it shows they're 10 by 7. I had a question about the mount because I wanted to make sure they were reverse mount. If you look at the old invoice, it says rear. Studs is a reverse mount. It's just, they just did different terminology. So it is a reverse mount. They actually sent me a whole page on how to install it. So when we get them, we can give it to whoever, show them how to install a plaque. So the cost for the plaque, each plaque is $189. If you look at the other plaque we did before, the original cost, this is actually cheaper here. They do a historic preservation discount, which is 10%. It was 15% in the old contract. But because of things that are changing in the economy, there is a material surcharge, basically a tariff charge. So basically that counteracts our discount for the plaque. And what's also a lot higher is the shipping. The other, we had 6 plaques. They were able to get them all into one box. And this, for 3 plaques, they calculated. But it's basically the same pricing when you average it all out. And just also know that I had them work with David Villalobos to get them to be a county vendor. That's a lot of paperwork. And last week they finished all the paperwork. Mr. Villalobos was on vacation all last week. So I'm sure today he's pulling up his email. He's back tomorrow. Okay. Well, when he's back, it's going to be in his email. And I think I gave it to you too. But anyway, that's all in the works. So it's just a matter of today is if we want to approve these 3 plaques and decide what font we want. And I can quickly email them to get in the process. And if we can get a bill before, maybe we can have that paid before. Usually if we decide to do a motion, because things are in flux, they did in their email said there might be a slight increase if we have to wait beyond a certain time. This contract, there might be an increase. Everything is in flux. So I'm thinking we might want to make an approval for like 50, or if we decide to move forward, just to have a little leeway in case it's not. Let's open this up for discussion. Yes, go ahead. And you like the idea of moving forward with discussion? Be and move forward. Okay. And I guess, yes.
I just wanted to point out, there's a hyphen after saints on the website, on their website, and also in our resolution.
Okay, so it should be a hyphen between saints and by.
Yes.
I've seen it that way, which is why I raised that in my
Because
email
before I
to you.
sent it, I didn't have any hyphens.
Right.
And then they put these.
And I have
in.
seen it all kinds of ways. That's why
Well,
we should
go
probably,
by their website, or should I maybe I just try to email them and find out for
yeah,
sure
I would do
how
that.
they want it, because it's going to be on their church.
Yeah.
And
I think they should.
they probably will want it the way they want it. So I can just email them. I have not even contacted them about a plaque, but I think they really want a
Oh,
plaque.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's not a question if we make a plaque and that we don't want it. The other two, Arroyo Hondo, there's some great places on that bridge that you can walk to that they can put it. And Cold Springs Canyon Bridge, if you remember, below the bridge is another plaque on there. It's just a matter of getting permission if we add our plaque next to the engineering plaque. When you're down below on Old Stagecoach Highway, you look up, you see the arch bridge, and that's where they have. That could be discussed later. Today we're just funding discussion on funding. So, okay, that's good on the same. I'll email them how they want it, and then we can go from there.
I have a question on the font.
Okay.
A or B, which one did we use on Rocky Nook?
Well, they are both the same font, it's just the size of the font.
Right.
I thought we.
Which size did, it seemed awful small.
No, I think it was,
So we've already been using B. Is that what you're saying?
well, the Rocky Nook, the white TC, that is what it is. It's big.
So that's
Okay.
the same as that.
What they're doing below is, because you see the one for Botanic Gardens had to be smaller because there's lots of words.
Yeah.
These are the actual plaques. They found the actual plaques that are in front of you here. The question is, they like the idea that they could increase the size on option B instead of keeping it the same as, say, Santa Barbara Botanic Gardens is a smaller font. And I think that's what they did here is they took the font of Santa Barbara Botanic Gardens and placed it for the examples in option A. Whereas option B is allowing them to adjust it, make it larger when
Yeah.
It is the bigger
I-
font.
but
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it is big.
Seems smaller in person.
yeah, what you see on here is the actual, this is
Okay.
the actual template.
All right.
And keys to it.
Okay. Thank you.
So do you want any more discussion? We could move.
I'm in favor of going forward.
Me too.
It looks like option B. So someone do a motion? vote on this? We have to.
I'm into motions today. I move that we move forward with Franklin Bronze Plex with font choice B
And
I'll second.
for the amount stated in the order acknowledgement.
you want to keep it that, or you want to round it up to 50? But if they change the contract. We have the motion to keep it at 627 for option B. Okay, now we're open for discussion.
Okay, just to suggest about getting it in for this year's budget if we can.
I will, like I say, if I have time this afternoon, I'll email them.
Okay, just,
They're East Coast, so they
you don't
might
want a
be
part
able-
of the motion though, or just, will you just get it done or?
Should we put that in the motion, County Council? Try to get,
Sorry, I missed that. What was the question?
if we should, put in the motion, try to get it in this fiscal year.
Sure, you could put
And
that in.
then if it doesn't, it will go into next fiscal year. So the motion should be changed to put it in this fiscal year, but if it cannot, it would go into next. I don't want to have to come back and make another vote because we missed this fiscal year.
Okay, then I guess it doesn't matter then. Never mind. I thought. Okay, never mind. Either way, it doesn't matter.
What do you think? Should we put in, trying to get in this fiscal year? It doesn't, okay. Okay, so, any further discussion? Between Saints and. Okay, all in favor, for the motion, say aye. Okay, and that concludes today's meeting, and our next meeting is July 14th. And it's in the same room we are today, in the Board of Supervisors hearing room. And I adjourn the meeting. Thank you.